And today we're going to be making a funfetti cake in a half sheet pan. This pan size allows you to customize your cake size. You can use them for small cakes such as my bento cakes or large cakes like the letter and number cakes I have on my channel. Okay, to get your funfetti cake recipe, go to my CAKECULATOR app, which is on my website, tastypastry.kitchen. I will leave a link for you down in the description box below. Go to the cake selections panel that looks like this, and you should have a selection called funfetti. So that is the cake flavor that we're going to be making today. For cake size, you can choose a lot of different sizes based on the project that you're baking. We're going to do a half sheet pan today, so go ahead and click that. And if you wanted to match a frosting with this cake, you could choose that. I'm not going to do any frosting today, so go ahead and just push submit. And the CAKECULATOR is going to make our custom recipe based on our pan size. So at the beginning, we have a little bit of an introduction, a little bit about funfetti cake in general. If we had chosen a frosting, it would give us a little bit of an introduction there. And then sometimes I'll have a cake assembly video based on using a half sheet pan for your projects. So I have a basic video right here. If you scroll down all the way to the bottom, you have the actual recipe. You can print it out like I do, and then I just check off the ingredients as I go, or you can use your smartphone or smart device and use it kind of as an interactive app like that. Okay, let's get right into the recipe. The first important step is that you have to prepare the pan. If we're going to be baking a cake that's this large and thin and want to be able to remove it in one piece, we have to make sure that we do this step very precisely. So take some butter and grease the bottom and sides of the pan very well. I typically save my butter wrappers from other baking projects just to grease pans. Then take a piece of parchment paper that's been cut to size and lay it down on top of the butter. Next, sprinkle a little bit of flour on the bottom of your pan, then pick it up and shift your pan around until the flour has coated the sides of the pan. This is going to make sure that the cake slides out after we're done baking it. Add your butter and sugar to the bowl of a stand mixer that's been fitted with a paddle attachment and beat it for about 1 minute on medium-high speed until it's all combined. Then add your vanilla extract, your almond extract if you're using it, and your canola oil and beat for another couple minutes until it's very light and fluffy and almost white in color. Now while that's going, I like to prepare the dry ingredients, so take a large bowl and add your cake flour, baking powder, and salt, and whisk that for at least 30 seconds to distribute the baking powder evenly. After a couple minutes, your fat sugar mixture should be very light in color and slightly grainy like this. Now we're going to alternate adding the wet and dry ingredients. First, add half of your flour mixture to the stand mixer. Let the stand mixer go on low until the flour is just incorporated. Use a spatula to scrape it down. The second step is to add half of your room temperature milk and do the same thing. Mix it on low speed and use a spatula to scrape it down. For the third step, add half of the remaining flour mixture, mix on low speed and scrape down. Add the last half of your milk, mix on low speed and scrape down. For the last step, I like to do it by hand, so I just remove the paddle attachment, pour in the rest of the flour, and fold all of the flour in by hand using a spatula. Now pour all of that batter back into the bowl that you mixed your flour in. We're going to use your stand mixer bowl to make egg whites unless you have a spare bowl handy, so go ahead and clean this until it has no traces of grease on the inside and wipe it clean. Add your egg whites to the bowl and use a whisk attachment starting on low speed to loosen up the egg whites, and then increase the speed to medium-high until you reach medium peaks. Take your spatula and spoon about a third of your egg whites into the cake batter and do a combination of stirring and folding for this first step. This first part is just to loosen up the batter so that we fold in the egg whites a little bit easier for the next step. Go ahead and add the remainder of your egg whites to the batter, and for this step we are going to do strictly folding. So just picking up a bit of batter with your spatula, turning the bowl, and placing that batter over the top. Continue doing this until all the egg whites have been mixed in. The last ingredient that we're going to add is sprinkles, which is probably actually the most characteristic ingredient of funfetti cake. There's not a lot of requirements, except for that you want to look for the sprinkles that are cylindrical in shape. They're called jimmies in the baking world. You can choose any type of color or brand that you like. I'm just going to use the Wilton ones because I know that they hold up in the cake batter and they don't bleed too much. So just give that a few gentle folds until all the sprinkles have been evenly distributed. Pour all of that batter into your prepared baking pan and use a spatula to smooth the surface. Give the pan a good shake to level out the cake batter and then tap it on the counter a few times to release any large air pockets. Bake in the lower third of an oven that's been preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 to 23 minutes. You'll know your cake is done when it's golden brown throughout the entire surface, and when you touch the cake, it springs back gently to the touch and shouldn't leave any indentations. You should also do the skewer or toothpick test, so stick a skewer in the middle of your cake. You can do it diagonally so it catches more of the batter, and if it comes out clean or with very little crumbs attached, that means your cake is done. Allow the cake to cool completely before removing it. Now to remove it, all you have to do is take a butter knife and slide it along the edges of the pan, lifting the corners to ensure that it's not sticking to the bottom. Once you've done the entire perimeter of your cake, take a piece of parchment paper and place it on the top of the cake. Then take a large cooling rack or cutting board or other baking pan and flip the cake over. Because of our butter and flouring of the pan, along with the parchment paper, the pan should release very easily from the cake. Peel off the parchment paper backing, then slide the parchment paper that it's sitting on onto your work surface and you're ready to go. You can use this cake for any of your projects that require small or large cutout cakes. Thanks for watching and happy baking!